Hello, everyone. Got a screencast here explaining all the different terminology and vocabulary for this particular unit on the Great Depression. And so I'm going to walk you through the major terms and give you a little bit of an idea what they mean. Our first term is just a general market. All a market is where people buy or sell goods, services, or information. A huge part of this unit is understanding why markets fail. When perhaps the demand for a good falls too low, meaning people just don't want that good or need that good anymore, that market could fail. Sometimes a market will fail because the supply of that good becomes way too large. And as a result, demand and the price of that good drops. And people have a hard time making money selling that particular item. You will learn more about the different ways that markets fail throughout the unit. Credit, huge cause of market failures, or at least in particular the market failure that we will discuss. This is when a buyer receives a good or service immediately without paying for it immediately. Buyer will repay the lender over a period of time. We see this as a problem in the Great Depression, in particular with the stock market, where people started buying stock through loans. It's called buying on margin, and you'll see it as a later term. It's fine if the stock makes money and they're able to pay the bank back. But if multiple companies or stocks fail and multiple borrowers are not able to pay the banks back, then multiple banks will also start to collapse. And that's one of the huge problems at the core of the Great Depression. As I said before, buying on margin is that process of buying stocks, only paying a little bit down, that minimal amount, and then borrowing the rest. As I said before, if you make a profit and can pay back your loan, it's awesome. You make money. But if you cannot, then not only does your stock collapse and you struggle, but banks might struggle if this is happening all over. Speculation is also related to market failures, and in particular the stock market. This was the idea of stockbrokers purchasing shares in a stock market or a company that are high risk in the hopes of getting a quick return or a high reward. So buying quickly, selling quickly. The problem that this causes is that stock prices become unstable because when a lot of people want to buy a stock, the value goes up. When a lot of people want to sell a stock, the value goes down. If this is happening rapidly, it makes it really hard to accurately predict what the value of a stock can be and leads to a market that goes up and down quickly rather than being stable. And when the market collapses, obviously, it takes a huge downturn. A bust just describes what happens or what we call it when it happens when the economy slows down, when there's less production, when multiple markets are failing, and people, because of that, aren't able to find jobs because businesses aren't producing or selling as many goods. When people don't have jobs, incomes fall and less goods are produced. We call a positive turn in the economy a boom and this negative turn a bust. Hoovervilles are one of the effects of the Great Depression bust. These were shanty towns built by homeless people, usually right outside of urban areas, as a way for them to live close enough to the city where they could go into the city during the day and either panhandle, meaning beg for food or money, find a soup kitchen, or just look for a job and find work where they could. These Hoovervilles were extremely dirty and dangerous. Waterborne diseases and fires were really common. Bonus Army. This represents a group of upset Americans during the Great Depression. These particular people were veterans of World War I. They were promised a bonus in a certain year, and when the Depression hit, they simply wanted the bonus, the cash bonus for their years earlier. They were promised the bonus, but not until much later. They wanted it now to avoid losing their homes. If they got the bonus payment for their service, they would be able to pay their bills now. To show their frustration, they marched on Washington, D.C. and camped out while Congress was debating whether or not to pass a bill into law that would have given them their payment early. So imagine they're sitting outside in their tents trying to put pressure on Congress in their minds to do the right thing. At this particular time, Hoover was unwilling to kind of give in to their demands, so he orders the army in to clear them out. And as a result, a couple of children die in this confrontation. This was the last straw for Hoover. He was unpopular already, and this made him even less popular, obviously. The Dust Bowl is not necessarily a direct effect of the Great Depression. It simply is bad luck that during the time of the worst economic downturn in American history, we also have perhaps the worst ecological disaster in American history. Now, there is a human element. Farmers in this area of the South, Oklahoma, and other states in that area, perhaps had overworked the soil. And then you have a couple years of drought. And then you have massive windstorms, which turned into dust storms in the 1930s, destroying the land and forcing farmers that had worked the land there perhaps for generations to pack up and leave in search of better farmland. A lot of them went to California to find this. After Roosevelt is elected, he comes up with a program which he calls the New Deal, and actually campaigned for president telling people about this New Deal. This is just a general term for what the government will do in response to the Great Depression. It's all kinds of different programs and laws to help boost the American economy, usually put into three categories: reform, recovery, and relief. One of the things that Roosevelt will have to do to accomplish his goal of creating a New Deal for the American people is to spend on deficit, borrowing money either from wealthy Americans or from other nations to pay for these programs that obviously at the time America couldn't afford. A lot of these programs take the form of what are known as alphabet agencies, known so as such because of the symbols, or excuse me, the letters used to describe them. CCC, NRA, CWA, PWA. You don't have to memorize these, but know that most of these programs were jobs programs for people that were struggling with the Great Depression. The other option Roosevelt gave was direct relief. Instead of giving a person a job so that they could make money to feed their family, he also gave money directly to families that needed it most. And so that they wouldn't have to work for it, they would get money from the state or federal agency in their area, again, to help them pay their bills, keep their home, and keep food on the table. That's the end of our word wall. If you need any other help understanding these terms, see your teacher.